2026 is just around the corner, and with new engine and chassis regulations coming in, it's time to take a look at what I think will be the driver lineup for 2026. We'll start with the big domino. In 2025's driver lineup, that big domino was Carlos Sainz. On 2026, it's Max Verstappen. Verstappen, there's no secret Verstappen isn't particularly happy with where Red Bull are at the moment. And there's not exactly good signs coming out of Red Bull and Ford's engine. However, his options for 26 to go elsewhere are limited to just Mercedes. And that's no guarantee that Mercedes are going to have a big engine advantage. Honda could also be up there too. Never mind any of the others, such as, well, we think that Audi probably be lagging at the back too. So you've got the four Mercedes engines teams plus potentially Aston Martin. Now, obviously, if the engine regulations do dictate the driver order, then, Verstappen may think, I've seen what's capable, I'm going to go elsewhere. But would Mercedes necessarily be the move that he wants? I don't know. Would Mercedes be able to deliver a car? Because there's four teams up there, and one of them is McLaren. They've got Sashi. Sashi could also come if the performance between the Aston Martin and the Honda engine is similar, and they have an advantage over the rest of the field, the other five teams. Then for Aston Martin and McLaren, who have got better car designs than Mercedes, that could mean that they're the third fastest team on the grid, even fourth if Williams outdeveloped them too. So I think for Verstappen, the most sensible thing is to wait, and I think that's what he's going to do. He will do one more season at Red Bull, and then what will happen is 2027 they will open up seats at both McLaren and Aston Martin, and he can pick which one he wants to go to. So with Verstappen along in the main seat again for Red Bull, who will be alongside? Yuki Tsunoda? Well, Yuki's not exactly had the best runner form. He's not really scoring the points that Red Bull need to be at any constructors position, being behind Verstappen on the podium or close to Verstappen. And yes, it's a difficult car. They're obviously going to give the parts to Verstappen first before they give them to Tsunoda. But I think that Red Bull will also have one thing in mind about Verstappen's departure. Verstappen leaves, what lineup are they going to have? I don't think they want to necessarily commit to Yuki because they want to prepare for the future. And therefore, for first of all, the fact that they overlooked Yuki for that second Red Bull seat in the first place in place of Lawson shows that then he's not a long term in the future for that team. So therefore, I think that alongside Verstappen will be Arvid Lindblad. Just like this will be similar move to what Mercedes have done with Antonelli. He's the same age as what Antonelli was last season. He's in Formula 2, having a similar season to what Antonelli did so far. Bearing in mind the season's still ongoing. Yes, I think that they'll try and get Lindblad, throw him in the deep end at Red Bull, get him used to that car, and get him on a long-term contract. I think that's the best thing the Red Bull can do. So with Lindblad alongside Verstappen, what happens to Tsunoda? Back to Racing Bulls? I don't think so. Racing Bulls will definitely have Isaac Hadjar. He's had a good start to the season, and I think they want to keep him definitely for another season at that team. He can become the team leader. The reason why I think they'll definitely keep him, he'll be a little bit miffed, I think, Isaac, that he's been thrown over for Lindblad, but I think he'll stay because the options again are limited to go elsewhere too. maybe if he has a good season, then he could be a long-term prospect for Alpine if they want to try and get that all-French lineup thing going again. Bearing in mind they've now not got a French engine in the back of the car. But I think that, second season Formula 1, he can show what he did. Tsunoda, will it be alongside backup Racing Bulls? I don't think so. There's no incentive really for Red Bull or Racing Bulls to keep him on, because obviously they'll be powered by Ford. I think they're going to be looking to Formula 2, and Pepe Marti he's second, I think, as it stands. Correct me if I'm wrong. The last time I saw the F2 standings, 2. So put him in as well. I think that he's not necessarily the obvious choice. Would, of course, Red Bull didn't really have Hadjar in Formula as ready for Formula 1. It was you kind of get to think that was a last minute kind of decision to put him in the Racing Bulls for this season. So yes, those two definitely are like, you need to show what you can do. Show Red Bull that you can go alongside Lindblad, really. Aston Martin, too. No change there. Stroll's on a life contract with Aston Martin, and Alonso's in the final year of his contract. I do think that Alonso probably be his last year. He's going to be 45 in 2026. And, that's been such a stellar career. The first driver to compete in 400 Grand Prix. I think that if he's not able to compete if the car is good, and he's not able to compete, then I think that he'll walk away. I also think he'll walk away if he wins the championship too, because that's what he wants to do, but we'll have to wait and see about that. And this obviously leaves Mercedes too. Neither driver has a contract, but obviously Antonelli, I think, will carry on. It's an obvious choice. He is the future of that team, just like Lindblad is the future for Red Bull too. Russell, will they get? He's been rumoured. It was rumoured before the Verstappen rumours started again that he was going to be getting a contract extension. He's been very consistent. He's not. I don't think he's necessarily that Hamilton level driver that they are looking for, and they might have to wait for Antonelli to become good before they can then choose a second driver. But for Russell, he is very consistent, and he is a good driver to have in a Constructors' Championship fight. McLaren, this Norris and Piastri, they're giving me late 80s vibes between Prost and Senna. And we have a McLaren that's dominant, Spanish Grand Prix permitting when those changes come in. But if, let's say, the McLaren continues to be dominant all season, Norris doesn't have as long as contract as Piastri. Norris's contract expires 2026, I want to say. Piastri's is up to 2028 already. So I think that Lando's probably more out of the door than Piastri is at McLaren. The question is, will they have a season next, if, let's say, the McLaren continue their dominance into 2026, and purely the fact that they've nailed the aero regulations, then we could see a 88 fight. We could see this later this year. We've only had 6 Grand Prix so far. There's still 18 more to go, including this weekend's Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix too. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But I do think that partnership between Norris and Piastri is coming to an end, and I think that it's more likely that Norris than Piastri will leave as well. And if Verstappen does leave Red Bull in 27, Red Bull will probably obviously turn to Norris. It's a no-brainer for me, personally speaking, but that depends on how slow that Ford Red Bull powertrain engine is. Ferrari, Hamilton's only his first season with Ferrari. Leclerc's on a contract to 2029. I mean, he's going to be doing the rest. Leclerc's going to be doing the rest of his career. Lewis, I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen with him. He could move back to. There's always been talks about him moving back to McLaren at some day, but we'll have to wait and see about that. Obviously, when Lewis does move on from that team, Behrman, he had a very good start to the season. Not scored as many points as his teammate Ocon, but he's been very consistent up there at the end of the top 10, really, in terms of trying to score some points. Speaking of Ollie himself, another season at Haas, he's only done one full season, and despite what Ferrari did with Leclerc, I think that they're not ready yet to make that switch between Hamilton and Behrman in the car. Behrman obviously will look to develop that Haas. Obviously, Haas's links with Toyota. Yes. So whether or not they try and get a Toyota rate-linked driver in the future, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, Ryo Harakawa, I butchered that name, I do apologise. Have done some FP1s for Haas. So yes, but I still think that Haas are going to keep their current lineup. It's a good lineup. Behrman's going to continue to grow. Ocon's there too, as well. Solid midfield driver, really. And as long as they continue to score points, as Ocon, he scored 5th place, I think, at some point early this year. Audi, yes. Audi aren't really. Their failure to sign Sainz is really not good for Audi. I think they're going to carry on with the same lineup. They've got Hülkenberg and Bortoleto. They both got a contract 26-2 with Audi, so I don't really think they're going to make any changes just yet. This is early days for an Audi and an Audi engine that will need a lot of work and a lot of feedback from drivers. Hülkenberg has that experience to be able to give that feedback. Bortoleto is, well, of the two drivers, he's more likely to go, but I don't see a candidate that could really come in as well for Audi. I think that it's probably just easier for them to just look to the future, and if a future candidate does come from Audi, then obviously Hülkenberg is at the end of his career. Bortoleto, if he's going to start his career or not, I don't know, but for now I don't see them changing. Williams, if we could be seeing 2014 levels of Williams or even better. Williams haven't won a race since 2012. That's 13 years ago. Yes, it has been a very long time for them since they were last on the top 10 of the podium. But they have been on the podium since at the start of the V6 era, when Mercedes had a dominant engine. If Mercedes continue to have a dominant engine in 2026, like they had in 2014, and we could see Williams up there, and Albon and Sainz, perfect driver lineup to take that team forwards. So yes, Sainz, obviously he's starting to get a few better results. Obviously he had a slow start to this season, but I think that when he's going to continue to grow into that car, into that team, and he's pushing Albon forwards, which is exactly what I was hoping that Sainz would do. And then we come to our final two teams. Alpine, yes. Will they really change Gasly and Colapinto? I don't see it. Colapinto's bringing in sponsors too to that team, which, it's not been the greatest of teams for sponsors. They seem to have a lot of leftover sponsors, although Eni, to be fair, of course, have replaced Castrol. Castrol jumped to Audi. You'll see them back on the grid in 2026. I think that Colapinto continues to grow. Obviously, there's some buyback clause in this that they've got to deal with Williams should they need him back. This is a perfect chance. It just depends if Colapinto has a good rest of the season. And I don't necessarily need to have to be on Gasly's level, but I think that he does need to score a few points. Definitely be better than Doohan if he wants to keep that seat. And that brings us to our final team, the new team, Cadillac, as well. And for Cadillac, it's a no-brainer, Sergio Perez. Off the 3 tracks in the United States, he has a huge following. So there's loads of marketing opportunities there for him. He brings sponsorship with him too. So all those sponsors, too, from over the years, the Clara, Telcel, there's loads of them that he can bring in as well. Alongside him, it's a bit more tricky. Now, this team has been linked with Zhou and Bottas, and that would be a very mid lineup for them. They've got a Ferrari engine, which we're not expecting much from the Ferrari engine as well in 2026. So realistically, it's just about the waiting game until they can build their own engine in 2029. I think that if they go for Jean Bottas, it will be very disappointing. You know, that lineup failed to do anything in a Sauber car that had upgrades really at the end of last season. I think that Perez and Alex Palou would be a better driver lineup. Palou has been looking, he's been winning in IndyCar, I think. I'm not a big follower of IndyCar, so yes. He's been looking to try and get into F1 for a while now. I think this is his ticket. It will bring the Cadillac. Cadillac will want somebody from IndyCar, and I think that Colton Herta has ruled himself out of taking an F1 seat. So realistically, Perez and Palou, I think, would be a good lineup. Obviously, Palou would be a rookie. Perez has experience too, and of course, Perez brings that level of sponsorship. Palou will bring whatever IndyCar sponsors across too. I think in terms of money in his early years for Cadillac, I think that's a good money brainer, because especially the fact that making an engine is definitely not cheap, and being attractive as a team for sponsors, this could be a good move. But yes, that's the 22 drivers. Let me know what you think in the comments below, what you think who will be on the grid in 2026. But if you're on around here, please do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. Until the next video then, I'll see you next time. Take care, enjoy your day, and goodbye.